Good morning. Pems listen to VOA, Japanese English listening material site. The awesomeness of 4,000 years in China. The real face of an eerie neighbor. China's 4,000-year history of conflict and disconnection. It is often called China's 4,000-year history, but this 4,000-year history is actually a history of repeated discontinuities, or even more. A history of blood-washing conflicts. The word that symbolizes it is the Yi-Surname Revolution. The Yi-Surname Revolution is appropriate for those who rule the world to have the most virtue in their time. It is China's traditional political thought that a revolution will occur when heaven gave up on the dynasty who lost the virtue. Although words such as heaven and virtue are used in reality, the new dynasty emphasizes that it is a legitimate successor to the successive dynasties in the compilation of history books. While the new dynasty emphasizes the immorality and rebellion of the late emperor to emphasize the legitimacy of the new dynasty. That is why Japan must have been considered their former dynasty. Current Xi Jinping Communist dynasty is to forge a false story, such as the Nanjing Massacre, Japan, created as a country of immorality and the treason. Complained of Japan in that it continues to criticize the validity of the previous dynasty, their brutality they may have thought that they can hide. However, the truth is gradually being revealed both inside and outside. It was the idea of the Yi-Surname Revolution that worked as a theory to justify it. Therefore, the history of China is not a perennial history as we Japanese people imagine it. It is not an exaggeration to say a struggle after the blood-washing struggle, even they say a 4,000-year history. Yamaga Soko, a Confucian and military scholar of the Edo era, pointed out that point in his book The Facts of the Middle and North Dynasties and said, in China, vassals often take hold of the monarchs due to the Yi-Surname Revolution. China does not deserve the center flower of the world name. Since the founding of the country, Japan, which has always been one of the first generation, is the center flower of the world. Let's go back and look at the history of China's conflicts and discontinuity, which was also explained by Yamaga Soko. The Qing dynasty is not a Han tribe but a Manchu dynasty. For example, before the People's Republic of China now is the Republic of China. Before that, it was Qing. As everyone knows so far, this Qing dynasty is not a Han dynasty, which is the mainstream of the so-called Chinese. It is a dynasty established by the northern Manchu people. The above-mentioned Yamaga Soka pointed out this point properly. Many of the things that the Manchu people brought during the Qing era, when they ruled China, are now mistaken for Chinese tradition. For example, China dress. A Chinese dress is a long, stuffed collar garment, but it was originally a windproof and cold garment for the northern Manchu people. Actually, the Qin dynasty of this Manchu dynasty expanded China and made it equal to China. Until then it was pointing to a smaller area. As you can see from a little thought, the Great Wall is a World Heritage Site that everyone knows. The other side of the Great Wall was not China because it was created to prevent the invasion of foreign enemies. The region that is not China, in Manchuria, Gokhan Nation was founded in 1616 and was the predecessor of Qing. The capital of the post-Gokhan Nation was moved from Liaoyang to Shenyang, formerly Fengtian, but both Liaoyang and Shenyang were outside China, which was not China at the time. Gokhan changed the name to Daqing in 1636 and moved the capital to Beijing in 1644 over the Great Wall. In this way, the conquest of the Manchurians led to the birth of the present China, which includes everything from Manchuria to the old China. In ancient times, there was no Han before Qing is Min, Zhen before Min. Many Japanese know this. Many people may feel uncomfortable before that, but let's go back and look at it. The dynasties of Qing in the north and the Song dynasty in the south coexisted during the period when Taira Kiyomori conducted the Japan-Song trade. Further back in time, The era of Northern Song Dynasty became the era of the 5th and 10th nations, but before that, from the latter half of the 6th century to the 10th century, the era of Tang and Sui, which was familiar to the envoys of Tang Dynasty and Sui Dynasty. Before that, the period between the Northern and Southern dynasties, the Goho 16 Nations period, and the Sankoku period, famous for Sangokushi, ranged from 220 years to 300 years. Before that, it was the Han Dynasty, the origin of the words kanji and Han, and it dates back to 206 BC. Han is divided into former Han and latter Han, but it is Lu Kun who is known for novels and comics that caused the former Han. In front of Gohan, the Qin is famous for Shi Huang Emperor. The political unification that could be called China was completed in the continental part of East Asia only after the unification by the Emperor Qin in 221 BC. It is said to be Chinese 4,000-year history, but it has only reached half. Before the unification by Qin Shi Huang, what was the state of the so-called Qin era? The tribes repeatedly struggled and fought over the plains of the middle reaches of the Yellow River called Chugan. Now, I've written SPME tribes, but readers may have thought tribes are Han and other minorities? It is not. Actually, there was no race such as Han in the ancient Chinese era. Readers may have heard the words Toi Seiju, Nanban, and Hogateki. At present, only Nanban is familiar to Japanese people, but originally it is called Four-Ro in a set of four. It is a derogatory name like a barbarian living in north-south, east and west of China. Although it is a word that symbolizes Chinese thought, in fact, only Nakahara, the middle basin of the Yellow River mentioned above, deserves Chinese. The other races that lived in Beijing and Shanghai today, for example, were all Ijyu, Ban, and Taki. Not only that, there were 3 dynasties of Ka Yin and Zhou in Nakahara as dynasties of the pre-Qin era, and the Qin who achieved the unification of China is also Seiju. There is also a theory that they were Persian nomads west of Seiju. In any case, the tribes are literally confused around the rich city nation, Nakahara, and the mixed-race hybrids born of it are Han. That's all. Thank you. Listen to VOA.